Nobody knows what's best for you besides yourself, and the sooner you stop asking other people for your own answers, the sooner you will be able to find your path and walk down it. I've spoken about this in other videos, but for the majority of my life, I did not trust myself, how I felt, what I wanted to do, my thoughts in general, and because of that, I always looked to other people for solutions to my problems and answers to my questions and what should I do next and what's the best way to XYZ. And one of the most intense examples of this has happened in the past few years, and that's what I want to share now. So in June of 2022, I sent my first cold email for my new web development business, and the goal was simple. I wanted to be a white label web developer. That means I don't have to deal directly with clients. I would work with other agencies and basically be behind the scenes, do the work, and not have to interface directly with that agency's clients. Anyways, after sending emails for 2 weeks, I ended up being booked out for the next year. And at some point during this year, I got so bogged down with the amount of projects that I was doing that I felt overwhelmed, and I came across this course that promised, make more money in less time for creative business owners like myself. And so I signed up, and I spent several weeks learning about focus and systems and raising prices and all of this stuff. But the clear takeaway was that I could not continue being a white label developer. I had to start working directly with clients because that was the only way to raise my prices to the point that they needed to be at, because those agencies always had to make a margin off of the work that I was doing. So there was always a cap on how much I could charge. So anyways, I was convinced to, rebrand myself from an individual to an agency. And with that rebrand, there was a need to offer more services, because previously, where the agency I was working with would handle design and site strategy and then hand the development to me and I hand the site back to them, the clients who would come to me would need the site strategy and the design and the development. So I launched this new agency in the beginning of 2024 and walked straight into one of the hardest years of my career. Things did not go as planned, and I basically went from consistent projects and a full-time income to chasing clients, almost no work, and a fraction of my previous income. And this created a lot of overwhelm, and I started getting pretty depressed. But in November of that year, things started to turn around. I had a client reach out to me, and they basically wanted a full website. They needed the strategy, they needed the design, they needed the development. And that's how, throughout that sales process and sending the contract and everything, I came to land my first 6-figure project. And I was very excited about this. Naturally, in less than 2.5 years, I went from charging $33 an hour as a white label developer to charging 6 figures for one website project. And I was very excited about this, and everything was going very well until I started getting into the phases of the project that dealt with me working with other contractors, which was part of the things that I learned in this course that I had taken. And one thing I learned about myself is that I hate managing people. I love doing things myself and having full control over it. I don't like managing. And it ended up being very difficult for me and not fun at all. And I had to hire other contractors in the middle of this and fire other ones, and this was only a small portion of the project that they were even doing to begin with. But the sheer amount of stress that came with this, it was just so intense. And, you know, the client never saw any of this going on in the background. I managed to get everything done. They were ecstatic about the result, and we made them a lot of money, and they were very happy with how everything turned out and the quality of the engagement as a whole. But I left this situation so burnt out and so uninterested in continuing this agency that I started just like wishing for some sign that I could stop doing it. And I talk about this in a different video, but I ended up doing mushrooms, like a heroic dose of mushrooms to try and like give myself more perspective and get back in touch with what I wanted, because I was so far away from what I wanted at this point that I felt like I needed a full reset. And what happened is I basically realized that I don't need to do this business anymore, and that the only reason I did all of this to begin with is because people told me this is the right way to do it. You have to go bigger, you have to make more money, you have to hire people, you have to scale and get bigger fish clients and like all this stuff. And it turns out I fucking hated all of that. And it really, you know, I took it to the extreme, only to realize that I never wanted this at all. I didn't even want to be a freelancer. When I started that, I wanted to be a writer, but based on what other people had told me previously, like, you have to make money, and you have to make money by helping people make money. And that's why I even started doing this freelancing stuff to begin with. So when I listened to all this advice from the people I was in with this course and the group associated with it, I took all of their advice. I scaled, I charged more, I did more services, I did all these things I was supposed to do, and I hated every minute of it. And I was burnt out for months after this, like months. And it's crazy because I know that in general, sure, I could spend time creating systems, finding better people to work with and all this stuff, but I don't want that. And so I got rid of all of my clients. I stripped everything down. I am in the process of shutting down my agency right now because I don't want it. And the point of the story is like, you could look like you did all the right things on the outside. You could follow the advice of your peers or your mentors or whatever, but if you get to that final goal and you look back and realize that that fucking sucked and that is not actually what you wanted the whole time, you were just so busy chasing what you were supposed to be chasing that you got lost in the process, that is like a tough place to be in. I felt like I should have been happy that I made so much progress, but in reality, I just felt burnt out and just so over it. And I think this is like a perfect example of people don't know what is best for you. Sure, if you know in your heart you want to do these things, like I have some like business friends who love having a creative agency and they love talking about marketing and they love hiring cool people to work with, and that's awesome for them and they really genuinely enjoy doing that. But I never did, and I still kept looking for other people of like, okay, well, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And all along, the step that I've been avoiding was doing my own thing and writing and sharing my ideas online. And I'm grateful for this in the long run because I went to such an extreme in such a short amount of time and was able to see very clearly that this is not what I want. Like, the most successful version of this business is nothing that I want to be a part of. But some people take a lot longer than that, or never allow themselves to break free from these things that they're supposed to be doing in their career or their business or whatever. And I genuinely think that if we were to look inside and follow our own like intuition and the answers that we have, and keep practicing that and keep following them, eventually things will lead to where they're supposed to be, and you will be very happy with the result, not super disappointed and stressed out and burnt out and all this stuff. And I'm in the process of doing this now, like, you know, learning how to get more in touch with what I want and stop looking outside for answers. And I am a perfectionist, which I talk about in a separate video, and so I'm always looking for, like, what's the right way to do this? What's the best way to do this? Like, whatever. But the best way to do it looks very different to everyone. There's no one right way to do any of this. There's no one right business. There's no one right career. There's no one right way to have that career or that business. And so my question for you is, can you stop looking outside of yourself for answers and know that other people cannot know what's best for you? They don't see what's in your heart and in your mind and what your vision is for your life and what you're capable of. But you do. And even if you don't know what exactly that looks like right now, if you take the first step, the second one will show itself. And that's just how it works, you know? Like, you just gotta keep moving forward and eventually it will work out. That's at least been my experience since quitting that agency and starting to go into what I know in my heart I'm meant to be doing, which is writing and making these types of videos and everything. Like, the stress and the fear associated with putting myself out there is there's still fear, but it feels grounded in a meaningful path, a meaningful goal, and that makes all the difference. It makes the challenges more meaningful, and it gives you this like motivation to move through them even when it's hard. So I'll leave you with that today. I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.